So I've officially started my 16-week training block leading into BTU 100 miler at the end of June. Now that means I need to get really serious about my training, and as part of that, I need to complete our baseline testing. Now, our baseline testing is something we do with all of our athletes, whether they're professional fighters, runners, soccer player, rugby players, or even just general population people who want to lose weight. We do these 3 tests with all of our clients. So our baseline testing has 3 different components: a body composition scan, a resting metabolic rate test, and a blood test. Now for our body composition scan, there's 3 bits of information that we want to get out of that. We want to see how much lean muscle mass I have, how much body fat mass I have, and what my bone mineral density is. For the resting metabolic rate test, what I want to see is what my baseline calories at rest are. From that, I can work out more accurately how many calories I need per day to support my training volume. So in the blood test, we're testing a few different things. We're doing a complete blood count, which gives us an idea of what my blood electrolytes are, how well my liver and kidney is function, my fasting glucose, and my blood lipids. It's also going to tell us what my iron status is, my thyroid status, and my testosterone.
Yeah, buddy! Wait! Yeah! Ooh.
So I just went and completed all my baseline testing. So come have a look and I'll show you guys what this looks like behind the scenes. So I got here bright and early. First test that we're doing this morning is the Dexa scan. We're at Physique Science here at Stafford. So let's go get tested.
Early start for you, sorry about that.
No, it's right. I had someone before you anyway. So
oh, really?
Yeah. Normally it's 4:30 on 2
Really?
days a week. And what's shot for me? Analyze it down first, but this is you. So basically all I'm doing is these lines cut your body into sections, so then we can compare the left hand side of your body to your right hand side, and it can look at a little bit of your fracture risk as well, where there's some people that one hip sits so much higher than the other.
My running
Actually,
coach,
especially in yours, like your
oh
sport.
yeah, my coach was pretty convinced my hip is like, I mean,
Yeah, but it's actually
not too bad.
Yeah, it's a tiny little bit, but not much. But yeah, you can definitely see it, especially the more muscle difference you have. Download
Bump
those.
rugby shoulder.
It's not too bad. So this first page here is all about your fracture risk. So it's looking at your bone density. So what it's doing is plotting your age along the very bottom against your bone density on that left-hand side. Then the lovely picture that not many people like. So blue's bone, the reddy pink color is your lean mass, and then the yellow is fat mass. Now the main one I look at, especially if you're making weight, is this second one here, your fat mass for your height. Now this one is what we use instead of the BMI chart. And what it's doing is taking your total kilos of fat and putting it against your height. So with athletes generally, what I say here is even like you can be sitting in that lower category. It's more the fact of are you getting sick often, injured often, etc. I find if that number's less than 2, that's where you're really pushing it. I'm very, very rare to see like athletes making weight below 2 because otherwise it's just too lean.
So the body composition testing went well. I think it's important to remember that when it comes to body composition testing, a Dexa scan is what we consider the highest quality and the most accurate body composition scan that you can get. But it's important to remember that you need to take it with a grain of salt, and what's important with these things is consistency. So every time that you do these over time, you use the same machine, you have the same routine that you did before you went in, and you just make sure it's consistent, because even if there are little discrepancies and it isn't 100% accurate, you just want to make sure that it's accurate in how you're getting it done over time so you can track any changes. But for my scan that I got done with Amy this morning, it was pretty good. The first thing that we looked at was my bone mineral density. And so my bone mineral density, as you can see up here, was quite high. This chart just predicts over your lifespan up until 80. If you naturally deteriorate, your bones naturally deteriorate after the age of about 25, 30. Here, I would still be in a really good spot by the time I'm 85, and your bone mineral density is impacted quite heavily from exercise and weight-bearing exercise. So if you've been doing a lot of weights or training from a young age, it'll positively affect your bone mineral density. It's why we tell a lot of people to lift weights and why we see athletes with quite a high bone mineral density. It's also really important in terms of the energy availability. That's something we see with athletes who chronically underfuel and undereat over long periods of time. We can see their bone mineral density decrease, and this is what causes those stress fractures and other injuries. So this is really good. I'm in a really good spot with my bone mineral density. I was really happy with that. If we come down and we look at our body composition here, where this is a scan of my body. Here we've got the red, which is the lean mass, and then on the outside here, the yellow is the body fat. Down here, it gives a pretty good breakdown of what the numbers are. So body fat percentage came in at 11.8%. That was, yeah, pretty much expected that. I kind of expected my body fat to be around anywhere from 12 to 14%. I did notice as I've started training, I've already done a 4-week build phase before starting this phase here. So I've been training quite a lot, and before that I did the half Ironman training period. And I've been eating really well and training really hard. So whenever I go through a training period, my body fat does seem to come down. So when we talk about what's normal for body fat percentage, it really depends on what the goal is for that athlete. It'll range for males anywhere from 8% all the way up to 16%. For females, it's an even bigger range, anywhere from 10% all the way up to 22%. If you look at a couple of examples of big name stars throughout sport, it becomes really obvious. If you look at Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best football players ever, he's quite lean, his body fat. I'd put him anywhere between 9, 10, 11% body fat. Makes a lot of sense. He's a really fast player, really light, needs to be really mobile. But if you compare him to a heavyweight boxer such as Tyson Fury, who has a lot higher body fat percentage, makes a lot more sense because Tyson needs to be a lot bigger to be able to compete in his sport. And then you can compare it to someone else such as Eliud Kipchoge, who's the fastest marathoner in the world. Very, very, very lean, very light. Kipchoge's only 5'6" tall, and he weighs next to nothing, very, very lean. He's going to be anywhere between the 7-8% because he's trying to optimize his power to weight ratio. So your body fat percentage doesn't tell the whole story when it comes to body composition. You have to consider what is most optimal for your body. But again, it is a good metric to track. And for me, what I'm doing throughout this prep is making sure that I can keep that body fat on, keep that muscle mass on, and keep these numbers consistent throughout my training camp, because that's going to tell me that I'm fueling my body properly. And if I can fuel my body properly, I can stay injury free and make sure that I'm training as hard as I can and adapting to this training as best as possible.
So the main takeaway I took from that Dexa scan is that I don't have an ounce of fat on my biceps. My biceps are very well proportioned to the rest of my body, and that's probably what makes me such a good athlete. And look at the huge cock on him.
Body composition testing done, on the way to see Ali now to do my resting metabolic rate test. All going well, but you have to do all of this testing fasted. So it's 6:41 and I trained for like 5 hours yesterday, and I'm yet to eat this morning. So I am freaking starving. So very keen to get this one over with, but nearly there.
There's that one.
Like I haven't mouth breathed in like 4 years.
Tuck it in.
And I just hold it the whole time out?
Yep, yep. And then yeah, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out.
It's like when I learned to swim,
Yeah, lots of people struggle.
Yeah, it's like when you learn to swim, it's like complete opposite breathing pattern to running.
17:30, so what I'd normally do, I assumed you guys probably wrote down it though, is get your estimated RMR and then compare estimated to this. And then usually if there's more than like a 10% discrepancy, I'd consider that suppressed. Cool, so it's saying your estimated is 17, 18, obviously that's just an estimation.
But your calculator, which this is at a 97% accuracy level, if you haven't had anything to eat or drink today or done an exercise, 1730. So I'd say that's pretty bang on what it should be. So I would say there's no metabolic suppression, which is obviously a good thing. If there's like more than 10% discrepancy, so a lot of people come in and it's like more than a couple of hundred calories under what it should be. And they're like, I don't know why I can't lose weight. I'm like, well.
Can you explain that? What's that mean? Like what would lead to having a 10%?
Discrepancy?
Yeah.
Yep. So if it is under what it should be, usually it's through diet is the most kind of, I guess, main factor. So if people have had like a really big kind of dieting history in terms of like really extreme prolonged dieting, or they've just been under eating for a long period of time, or they've been really inconsistent with kind of going through periods of eating lots, eating nothing, eating lots, eating nothing, that can suppress your metabolic rate. Aside from that, I would then consider stress. So under the umbrella of stress would be
fair bit of that.
Yeah, like general life stress. So obviously, depending on people's situation, it's all very well and easy for me to tell some people just stress less when they're like, single parent working like with 5 kids or something. But just, I guess, if you know you are a stressed out person, like finding ways to manage that as best you can. Under that comes sleep, so getting good quality sleep, not just hours, obviously, as you know. So, again, people I feel these days kind of preach like the grind with, I'm only getting 5 or 6 hours, yay, go me, I'm getting so much done, but obviously that can stress your body out and can affect your metabolic rate as well. And then we have caffeine or like stimulant consumption, so whether that's pre-workout or coffee, if people are having just a hell of a lot, particularly obviously in the afternoon, which is then going to affect your sleep, that can also do the same thing. So I usually always recommend like a caffeine-free day every now and again, just to like clear it all out. And then there's like excessive HIIT training, so if someone's doing like a lot of like real high intensity stuff that's kind of resulting in their heart rate going really high, really low, it's just really hard to recover from, and can also affect our metabolic rate as well.
So the next test that we went and got done was the resting metabolic rate. We went in here, fasted. I was pretty hungry by this point, so I was pretty keen to get it done. But the way this works is that you sit down and you breathe in a pattern that is meant to replicate you operating at rest. So we were told breathe in for 4 seconds and breathe out for 4 seconds. And the way these RMR tests work is that the machine that you're breathing in analyzes all the oxygen that you breathe in and then the carbon dioxide that breathes out. And because you're obviously metabolizing that oxygen that comes in, the machine can measure the carbon dioxide, which is a byproduct of you breathing and a byproduct of your metabolism. It can put that into an equation, and based on the time period that you spent breathing into that machine, it can make a pretty close and accurate estimation of how many calories you're gonna need in a day if you were completely at rest. So when we went in, we completed this, took about 6-7 minutes of breathing into the machine, and it came out that I needed about 1,737 calories, which was really close to what I was basing my RMR off anyway. The numbers that I did came out about 1,750. So that was really, really good. That means that my metabolism is operating in a way that is expected for my height and weight. And that's the biggest thing that you take away from this RMR test. You can see, is your metabolism operating in a way that it should be compared to someone else who is the same height and weight for you in your age category. Why is this important for athletes? It's important for 2 reasons. One, it gives you a really good baseline to set up your dietary intake from. So I know now that my baseline absolute minimum, if I was to sit around and do nothing, is about 1,700 calories. And all I need to do on top of this to figure out what I need to fuel my training sessions properly is work out how much I'll be burning in those training sessions. You can use things like a physical activity level calculator or just an online calculator to estimate how many calories you'll be burning on top of this RMR. You never want to be eating under your RMR. The reason you don't want to be eating under your RMR is because that is the amount of calories at minimum your body needs to fuel all of your body systems. And this leads us to the second important piece of information that you get from these RMR tests, is that it can show how well your metabolism operates compared to someone of your same age, height, and weight. So for me, I measured pretty much bang on what they expect for someone who is 30 years old, 5'7", and weighs about 73 or 160 pounds. So that's a good sign for me. If I did my RMR test and I blew much under, that would be a sign that my metabolism has slowed down and decreased, and that there is other metabolic factors going on that will influence my system and make it not operate as optimally as possible, and that's something that we would have to investigate. What would cause that? Chronic underfueling or overtraining, lack of sleep, high stress levels. Those are the type of things that can really influence your metabolism in a negative way. And it's something that if you are in that category, you have to sort before you go into a heavy training block like this, because you won't adapt and respond to the training as ideal as possible.
Hungry, mate? Might go get a bit of goodies, get a bit of boost, maybe get a Euros, and then we'll finish with KFC. Alright, so heading to the doctor's now to pick up the blood test. Just finished the RMR. So the Dexa and RMR you have to do fasted. So as soon as I finished that, I went straight away, got food. And now we're heading up to pick up this blood test. Last bit of testing for the day, so let's see how we go. I don't expect anything to be too out of the ordinary with the bloods. Like, I feel really good at the moment, and usually those symptoms of feeling really fatigued or feeling really run down or getting sick, they'll usually pop up in a blood test, and I felt really good. The only thing that will pop up is a cholesterol issue that I've had, that's popped up over the last year or so, and the doctor's very, very convinced that it's a genetic family high cholesterol, which would make sense. My mum has high cholesterol, so does my auntie, my grandmother, my great aunt, my dad. Pretty much everyone in my family has the gene for it, and so we're treating that as well. I don't particularly want to go down the pharmaceutical route, so we're making some dietary changes. When it comes to high cholesterol, there's a few risk factors, and smoking, drinking, exercise, weight, body fat, and I'm not any of those risk factors, so we're trying to treat it firstly with the diet, see if we can make some positive changes, and if we need to explore some pharmaceuticals, we'll do that down the track. But other than that, I think everything should come up pretty fine. I'm very interested to see what my testosterone is. I notice when I start these training blocks, especially early on, I feel so full of energy, full of vigor, and if I'm being completely honest, I'm horny 24/7, which may sound weird, but it's an important thing, especially for guys, because that's an important health marker. When you're overtraining, underfueling, one of the first things that goes is your sex drive. And that's a very good early indicator that you're not fueling properly. And to be honest, I've been a bit of a horny goat lately, so I expect that I'll see that on the blood test, but let's go find out. Interesting combo to have with your doc.
So electrolytes, your sodium is again just under, so nothing dramatic. Potassium is normal, sugar is normal, renal function is normal. Uric a little bit up. Do you take a lot of meat? Red meat, beef, lamb?
Not heaps, but I eat like a fairly high protein diet, yeah.
Okay. So that's again just a little bit on the high side. Cholesterol's good.
Cholesterol is good?
Yeah.
Okay.
HDL is your good cholesterol. We want it above 1, and you're sitting at more than 1, which is good. LDL.
It's come down a little bit.
Yeah, as long as it's above 1, it's fine. And your LDL, which is your bad cholesterol, we want it below 2. So you're 2.93, it's come down to 2.8. So whatever you're doing, it's working. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah.
I've added in a whole bunch. I kind of went back on my diet, and I thought, you know what, like, I think I'm having enough fiber, but then I like really checked, and I was like, you're not having enough. Like, I thought I was, and I was having like 10-15 grams, so I introduced a fiber sub. So I've been like hyper. I want to get up to 30, even 40 grams a day.
So lots of fiber is always good.
So blood test came back pretty good. So first up, the complete blood count, which contains your electrolytes, liver function test, kidney function test, your blood lipids, your fasting glucose. All of these came back within normal ranges. The only thing that was of note was my cholesterol, my LDL cholesterol and total cholesterol were a little high. Both of these things I'm aware of, and it's just a genetic family history type thing. My mum has it, dad has it, auntie has it, grandma, pretty much everyone in my family has it. Something I'm very aware of, and something that we're working on with the doctor, and I'll do another video breaking that down because that is very interesting. In terms of baseline testing and performance data, everything in my complete blood count came back normal, within ranges. The next test that I had was my iron studies. This is something that all athletes, especially female athletes, need to monitor and keep a close eye on. Everything came back. There's no signs of anemia. Vitamin B12 was really, really good, which can also be associated with anemia. Thyroid, which is the master controller of your metabolism, came back completely fine. Testosterone was meant to get tested, but my doctor didn't put it through this time. I've never had a problem with my testosterone though. It's always tracked really well. Even during camp, it does come down a little bit, but nothing that is to be of concern. But we're gonna get testosterone tested on all the tests going forward. And what we're going to do is test these periodically throughout this training camp. So every 4 weeks, I'm gonna go in, get my bloods tested, and I'm gonna see how my body is responding to the training. These are really good measures to see if your body is staying in really good shape. If any of these measures start going out, you can usually pin it back to either one of two things. You're either under fueling, really bad for what the training load is, or you're under recovering, which means you're not managing your training load properly, you're not getting enough sleep, or maybe you need to reassess how intense certain sessions are and the duration of certain sessions. So constantly staying on top of these bloods is really, really important. But the key to these blood tests is getting them repetitively done throughout a set period of time, because you can get one blood test done and it's just a snapshot in time. To tell a really good story of what's going on in your body and compared to what is normal in your body, you need to get them done periodically throughout a time period. So over the next 14 weeks, I'm gonna be getting these done every 4 weeks, just so I can keep an eye on what's going on in my body. Am I responding to training like I should be? And am I staying healthy throughout this training period? There's gonna be two things that are really important for me to be able to do that. One, my nutrition and making sure I'm fueling my training properly. And two, making sure I'm recovering from the training load. I'm training anywhere from 20 to 30 hours a week, so I need to be on top of my recovery. My blood tests are gonna tell me if I'm doing that well or not. All right, so key takeaways from today's video are our baseline testing. So the three components of the baseline testing are a Dexa body composition test, so we can assess three things: our fat mass, our muscle mass, and our bone mineral density. Then we've got our resting metabolic rate test, so we can see how many calories we're burning at rest, and if our resting metabolism is what we expect it to be or slightly under, and do we have some other deficiencies that we need to treat. The last thing is our blood test to assess key performance biomarkers to make sure that our body is, one, responding to training, and two, we're staying healthy throughout that training period. So I'll be repeating these tests every 4 weeks throughout this 14-week training camp. Again, when you do these tests in isolation, they're just a snapshot in time of what's going on in your body. If you do them periodically throughout the time period, it starts to tell a really cool story about how your body's responding to training and if you're staying really healthy. So we're gonna make sure that we're doing these tests periodically and we're doing them under the same conditions every single time. That's gonna allow us to make a really good call on how our body's responding to that training. So ultimately, the whole reason why we're doing this is that I wanna have some quantifiable data to make sure that I'm fueling my body properly and I'm recovering properly throughout the next 14 weeks throughout this training camp. Training camp is really tough. There's a lot of stress on your body. You're gonna have niggles. You're not gonna feel great every single day. But if you do start feeling really bad, if we have this baseline data here, we can find the problem and we can fix it and we can carry on with our training as fast as possible. So having this baseline data, retesting it every 4 weeks, and then making changes on the fly in real time. Really, really important to make sure I'm optimizing my fueling, optimizing my recovery, and ultimately optimizing my performance come race day. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you are into sports science, sports nutrition, or high performance, I am going to be taking all of the knowledge that I've gathered from working with some of the best athletes in the world, and I'm going to be putting that to use and putting that to practice in my own prep towards the BTU 100 mile at the end of June over the next 14 weeks. So if you want to see a real deep inside look of what high performance sports science looks like in real life, make sure you follow along the journey.